Tonight you know about genetics, you know about bloodlines, you know about DNA and the absolute dangers of inbreeding. But go back 100,000 years, no microscopes existed, no medical books existed, no genetic tests existed. No one could explain blood relations with modern science, and yet early humans still survived. Tribes still continued, families still grew. They did not die out from corrupted genes. So the question is simple. Without any modern medicine or any hidden knowledge of genetic mutation, how did early humans know who not to mate with? Imagine the world before modern villages. Imagine a brutal landscape ruled by ice, fire, and predators. Early humans lived in extremely small groups. A tribe was tiny, 20 people, maybe 30. They were completely isolated. They walked across massive empty lands. They huddled together in dark caves. They relied entirely on each other. If you left the group, you died. You had to stay close. You had to stay together. But staying too close carried a hidden danger, a danger they could not see. Early humans knew the obvious threats. They knew the roar of a wild animal. They knew the biting cold of winter. They knew the sharp pain of hunger. Those threats were loud. Those threats were fast. You could fight them. You could run away from them. But there was another threat, a silent killer. It did not roar. It did not bleed. It moved quietly from one generation to the next. It was the danger of the same blood. When close bloodlines mixed, the results were devastating. The group did not know about genetics. They did not understand why, but they saw the brutal reality. Children were born weak. Bodies grew twisted. Sickness spread faster. Babies did not survive the harsh winters. The young died early. And in the ancient world, losing your children meant losing absolutely everything you had. If the babies died, the tribe died. It was a silent death sentence. There was no room for error. The wild was unforgiving. It did not care about family bonds. It did not care about love. It only cared about strength. Nature did not teach them any human morality. Nature only taught them brutal survival. Blood had to mix with entirely new blood. Life demanded distance. But how did they ever recognize that silent, invisible danger when they did not have a microscope? The answer started early. It started in childhood. It started around the fire. In a small tribe, children were raised together. They shared everything. They shared the warmth of the flames. They shared the cold of the nights. They shared the exact same cave. They ate the same meat. They drank from the same water. They played in the same dirt. They breathed the exact same rhythm. They were not just individuals. They were a single living unit. They grew up side by side, day after day, year after year. They did not know about genetics. They did not know the science of reproduction. But nature gave them something else entirely. Nature gave them an invisible instinct, a deeply rooted psychological mechanism. Today, science calls it the Westermark effect. But to early humans, it was simply the only way of life. When children spend their first years of life together, something happens inside the brain. A switch is instantly flipped. A permanent barrier is built. The brain recognizes the physical closeness. It recognizes the shared environment, and it quietly removes all physical attraction. Think about your own siblings. Think about the people you grew up with. The very thought of them in that way feels wrong. It feels highly unnatural. It feels completely repulsive to you. You do not need a science book to tell you this. You feel it deep in your gut. Cavemen felt the exact same thing. They did not have to invent a social rule against it. The rule was already written inside their minds. The physical closeness of childhood completely killed the desire of adulthood. They looked at the people around their fire, the ones they had known since birth, the ones they had cried with, the ones they had survived with. They felt deep love. They felt absolute loyalty. They would fight for them. They would die for them, but they did not desire them. The biological attraction was completely neutralized. They protected each other fiercely, but the reproductive spark was permanently extinguished by the flames they shared. We often think of this repulsion as a civilized social rule. We think our modern culture taught us what is appropriate. We think civilization created the boundary. But civilization did not create it. The ancient fire created it. The long, cold winters in the cave created it. This feeling of utter disgust is not human culture. It is the absolute biological shield of evolution. It is a brilliant survival strategy built directly into the human mind. Nature protected them long before they even knew they needed protection. But what if they did not grow up together? Nature had a second layer of protection, deeper, more silent. But what if they did not grow up together? What if they met a stranger in the forest? What if two tribes crossed paths in the wild? Nature had a second layer of protection. It was deeper. It was more silent. It was completely invisible. They did not have science. They did not look at genetic codes. They did not measure blood types. They did not understand the immune system. They smelled life. Before they spoke, they breathed. They stood close together in the cold. They felt the heat of another human body. They breathed in the raw scent of skin. They breathed in the scent of heavy sweat. They breathed in the scent of pure survival. To a modern mind, body odor is just something to wash away with soap. To an ancient human living in the wild, it was a powerful biological compass. It was a secret language spoken from one body to another. Modern science calls this the MHC gene complex. It is a deeply hidden code locked inside the human immune system. It dictates exactly how the physical body fights off disease. But much more importantly for survival, it dictates exactly how a living person smells. And nature always loves variety. Nature constantly demands difference. If a man and a woman had the exact same immune genes, they smelled entirely wrong to each other. They smelled boring. They smelled instantly unappealing. But if their genetic codes were entirely different, if their immune systems were complete opposites, the physical scent changed completely. It became deeply magnetic. It became completely intoxicating. It became pure biological attraction. They did not know why they felt this sudden desire. They just felt it. The ancient brain processed the invisible scent long before the eyes even made a conscious choice. The human nose detected the deep genetic difference in a single quiet breath. A different smell simply meant different blood. Different blood always meant a much stronger baby. A stronger baby meant the small tribe would survive for another generation. They did not think about this. They did not sit around the fire and debate the science of attraction. They followed natural urges. They trusted the strange pull of the invisible world. They trusted the air they breathed. Nature hid the deepest secrets of human survival inside the human nose. It was not magic. It was a perfect evolutionary design. The body knew the answer before the mind could even ask the question. They followed the scent of a different bloodline. They followed the silent whisper of their own biology. Instinct and scent protected them from within, but for the species to truly reach far, they needed a rule from the outside. But individual biology was only the first line of defense. Instinct protected the individual inside the cave. To save the entire species, humans needed something larger. They needed a social structure. They needed a powerful rule that crossed between different fires. They needed a law before written language even existed. Imagine a world divided into tiny, isolated family groups. If you stay completely alone, your blood grows old, or precious blood grows weak, your tribe slowly disappears. Ancient humans did not understand the mathematical probability of genetic decay. They did not have modern classrooms or universities. But they possessed incredible eyes. They watched the movement of the wild. They noticed how wolves left their packs. They saw how birds flew to new trees. They realized that static life was a slow death, so they built the ultimate strategy. Modern science looks deep into the past to find proof. Scientists examined the ancient remnants of our ancestors. Specifically, the archaeological genome of Neanderthals revealed a stunning truth. It mapped their deep social dynamics. It showed their hidden inbreeding structure. The data proved they actively avoided the trap of close blood. How did they do it? The answer is etched into ancient bone. The young women moved. This was the birth of exogamy. It was the original survival planning. When a young woman reached a certain age, she left her childhood fire. She said goodbye forever to her mother. She walked completely away from her brothers. She crossed the dangerous mountains. She entered the territory of a complete stranger. She brought her fresh blood to a completely new tribe. It was a brutal sacrifice. It was an incredibly terrifying journey into the dark unknown, but it was absolutely necessary. This exchange was not about romance. It was about tribe identity. It was about refreshing the ancient pool of life. One tribe traded a daughter to receive a daughter from another. By doing business, they connected the scattered pieces of humanity. They wove an invisible human safety net across the wild landscape. They traded pure genetic strength. They ensured that newborns would open their eyes with a powerful immune system. They did not read this in an academic journal. They learned it through generations of painful loss. They remembered which groups survived and which groups vanished. They transformed observation into a sacred tradition. They turned survival into a binding social contract. They were not foolish savages wandering blindly in the dark. They were master strategists of the ancient world. This unwritten law of blood migration became their ultimate salvation. It permanently closed the door on genetic decay. And this social rule stabilized their entire world. It beautifully prepared humanity for the final step, Today we explain genetic diversity with modern science. We map chromosomes in labs. We study DNA sequencing on computers. We use precise words like inbreeding and mutation to protect our future. That knowledge is incredibly powerful. But ancient humans possessed something completely different. They did not have medical books. They did not have advanced tools. They had direct contact with the harsh laws of nature. They survived by trusting the deep whispers of instinct. They listened to the silent warning of childhood closeness. They followed the hidden language of physical scent. They honored the sacred sacrifice of blood migration across the wild. They did not separate themselves from the raw cycle of life. They lived inside it. They feared it. They respected it completely. We explain genetics with advanced science now, but they understood it first through pure survival. And without that ancient understanding, none of us would be here.